sit with. Feel free to grab a chair from the side. You can't hear? I don't know. Oh, did you do that, Jeannie? I could have done that, but that was my sister Jeannie whistling. She whistles better than anybody. It's not working. Yeah, it does. It sounds like it's working, but. Hold it close to your mouth and speak up. All right, Mark's over there at the soundboard. He'll figure it out. So what I was going to say is if you're sitting at a table, you want to sit at a table and there's no room, just grab a chair from the sidelines and crowd in wherever you want to sit. Now is it working? Okay, good. Well, yeah, Jeannie's whistle helped, yeah. So I would just like to say in opening, thank you to everybody who's here today. This is an amazing turnout. It's like a 1960s, 1970s class reunion. It's like a Bordeaux school class reunion, like a Hillcrest class reunion. So I hope that everybody gets a chance to circulate and visit with all of our old friends and family that are here. So with that, I will let Tom Lowe come forward, my longtime friend forever and class of 65 classmate. Tom Lowe is going to officiate for us today.
Well, thank you. Here we go. I think I'm going to need a lot of grace today. All the notes, just flew up in the air, and I don't know. I hope that the Lord will just put it right back in order again for me. But because I want to do a good job for Tim and the family, because Tim was a special guy, and anybody that knew him knew that. He always made me feel wonderful. When he even remembered me, which was something. We might not have seen each other for 5 years, but I walked up behind him the other day and at Little Creek, and he says, "Tom Lowe, what are you up to?" Just like that. And I was thinking, you know what, Tim, how did you remember me? Because he was still looking good, And Tim was a special. I called him a unique. You just don't find people like that like to hang out with Aunt Dora and Rose, right? And watch Lawrence Welk on Saturday night. I mean, come on. Like he couldn't get a date? I'll tell you what, that told me something, because I always liked Lawrence Welk, and maybe we had a lot of things that we would be alike, but not many. He could actually shoot a basketball, and I just couldn't. In fact, he was good at just about everything. It always seemed to me, you could tell he cared about folks. And when you talked to him, he actually looked at you eyeball to eyeball, right? Not down or up or anything like that. He gave you the feeling that he was really talking to you. And that always impressed me about Tim. And his remarks and the things that he said were heartfelt, and that's what I really liked about him the best. I got some great stories that by interviewing people. I'm not going to mention any names except for Tom Fredson. So I don't know. Where is he? Yeah. No, I promised I wouldn't mention his name. So you guys better watch me as I leave the place. Well, we're here to celebrate an extraordinary life. One filled with laughter, tears, passion for life. Tim was a unique and was a man for all seasons. Please join me in prayer here, sister. As we join in fellowship together today to celebrate Tim Fredson's life, we ask our Lord to bless this time together. Open our eyes to see the love and caring evidence of a life well lived. May our Lord bless you and keep you, and in his perfect peace forever and ever. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Here we go. Let's see. Well, we're just about ready. I threw away quite a few pages now, so I'm going to try to keep it within a half hour, I guess. I'm just kidding. I'd like to start with a short story that really was one that I know pretty well because I got involved in it by accident, you know. But my friend Denny Bailey's brother Barry was going through a real bad time with some terminal cancer, and I knew it wasn't good. And when he passed, Denny had called and said, "Come on by." So I did, and wanted to talk to Bernie and Doris and the guys and Leslie, but all they wanted to talk about was Tim. I thought that was a little unusual, so I said, "What about Tim?" And he said, "Well, you know, Tim did some things that really touched our heart. He would come by after work, in the morning, afternoon, whatever he could, to see his buddy Barry." Now, I found out from his good friend Rick that he didn't like doing this kind of thing at all. In fact, it would be the last thing on his list. But he did it because it should be done. That he knew his buddy Barry needed someone to help him stand up to this terrible disease. So he came. And it meant so much to me when I heard that it made all the difference. And it gave me some courage to do the same thing. Because if he can do it, I can too. And because all of us, at one point or another, probably are going to have to cross that threshold, right? And I would hope somebody would be there for me. Some funny things that came through. I'm going to cut this back a bit. Yeah, because some of the things are funny and some aren't. Oh, wow. I guess I could finish by saying what Mr. Barry said, who didn't say a lot nice, but a lot of things, but he said, but Tim was bringing some light into their house every time he came. It wasn't long before, we all felt it. And that made all the difference to that family. And I thought, you know what? That's a special person. And he really is. Kelly had some really funny stories that she had told me. And one was the fact that Tim thought that she needed to lighten up. Really? I mean, that's kind of what he said. She was a serious girl. Would you say? Reasonable. and definitely Tim thought you should be, a little lighter to do the laughter thing, right? And so he'd come in and he would tell her jokes, and Kelly didn't laugh probably much.
I didn't think he was funny at the time.
I don't think so. Only your mom thought he was funny.
Tom was his audience.
Oh, that's right. But the truth is that Tim wanted to be your counselor. I mean, he really did. He wanted to counsel you to just lighten up and enjoy life a little more. And I think he tells that to all of us, doesn't he? Uh, he'd even like to go shopping, she said, with the parents. I mean, oh, you going shopping? Oh, hey, I'm with you. Who does that when you're a young um, which is true. But one of the funnier stories was Tim's school teacher coming to ask, what can I do about Tim? Now, Tim was a very good student. You probably all know that. Way better than me. No, and a lot better than most. He had an amazing mind, and he would finish the tests or the assignments so quickly that all he could do was wander around the classroom. Well, at least that's what he thought, right? Well, the teacher decided that she needed another plan because this wasn't working. It was disrupting. So I don't know who made the suggestion for him to start knitting, but as it turned out, it worked. And he was very good at it. And probably, go figure, huh? He would do anything, whatever he did, it was going to be good. And certainly it was in this case as well. So, but it figured. I believe he was an old soul. He was born an old soul, honestly. I watched him one day, and he used to always know where I was going to miss the basket. And and it would be, if it missed, it was down the road, and Tom always hit the basket, and I would always kind of carry him off, but Tim was always right there to get it for me, right? Well, that afternoon, I'm hearing some record going on in the house, back door. I have to peek in, and there's Tim chasing, or maybe Babe was chasing him around the ironing board, which was always up. 24/7. She was always ironing, it seemed. But anyway, Tim was laughing so hard he could hardly, and she was yelling and chasing around. I thought she was mad, but she was having the time of her life, chasing him around and going for it, while he got to just be deviling her, right? And I think they were a lot alike. I really do. I think Kelly said, you know what, he just doesn't seem like he's like the rest of us in the family. Maybe because he was blonde and they were all, more dark haired. I don't know. But the fact that he did listen to the beat of a different drum, literally. He loved music, and I think others will talk about it. And I better, what time have I got? It's about time to, arthritis is a bad thing to have, you guys. Don't advise it. So as I spoke to a lot of people, it was funny. It was almost like each one was talking about a different person, because Tim had a lot of interests, and he enjoyed talking to just about anybody. He had a spirit that said, I need to talk to this person, and he did. I love the way he talked. It was, he talked with his eyes, and I like that. He was a sincere man, and I like that. So here's a few of the things that came out, and I'll just hit some of the high points. One of the men said he was a man for all seasons, a true friend. One friend said, I don't know why he even liked me. I mean, we didn't have a lot in common. I guess, well, maybe it was music. Maybe it was music that had been our hook, right? But it didn't have to be. It might just be he was enjoying the opportunity to talk to you. And that was really important to him. He was popular. He's a great sportsman. some said, but I don't know, but he made time for me. And I always looked at that as, you know what, that says something about his character, doesn't it? One said he had it all: movie star good looks, great personality, great grades, athletic, really good at most anything he tried. Wow. And he stayed in Shelton. And he stayed in Shelton. You know why? Because that's where he belonged. That's where he belonged. And that's where he loved. Well, I guess as a father, well, I'm going to stop right there because otherwise I'm going to go into other people's bailiwick. And even though I appreciate everyone today and I just enjoy the stories that you're going to hear, and hopefully a little later you're going to get a chance to share maybe a favorite story that you have, okay? Anyway, God bless you all.
He's trying to take his notes off, but I think he read mine.
Was that it? Yeah.
My name's Mike Fredson. I'm Tim's cousin. So I wanted to talk a lot about being a Fredson. But first of all, am I loud enough? Tom can hear you. First of all, I want to say what a great job the kids did on Tim's obituary. If you haven't seen it, try to get a hold of it. It's full of grace and joy and love and how much their dad contributed to their life and how he was in their life all the time. Drove up to Port Angeles to see him frequently and to watch his grandchildren grow up, whose names are Felicity, Ivy, Wesley, and Parker. And are they all here today? There's 2, 3, great. Oh, so I think that was wonderful, and it really demonstrates Tim's character. He loved his family. And one of the things that I say about Tim is that Tim and I have at least 2 things in common. One, that we're proud of being a Fredson, and 2, we're proud of being local. Tim grew up on Dearborn. His dad is Mark Fredson. I have to say this, his mother is Mary Taylor, but I'm going to have to say Aunt Babe. I don't know anybody named Mary in our family. So those were his parents, and Babe's parents, her dad was Homer Taylor, and I say that because Homer Taylor had a huge influence not only on Mark's family, but on my family too, because Homer Taylor was a World War I pilot. He flew, and after World War I, he got out of the Air Force, came back to Shelton, and then when World War II started, he went back into World War II, also convinced Uncle Mark, Tim's dad, to go into the Air Force. And because my dad loved Mark so much, my dad went into the Air Force. So Homer Taylor had a great influence in our life. Mark flew 62 missions in the Pacific. Wow. My dad, Ken, was a bomber pilot in World War II in Italy and in Yugoslavia, and was shot down twice. So both of them survived, and both of them came back to Shelton, just like Homer Taylor. And Homer Taylor, of course, ended up being superintendent of schools for quite some time. Tim grew up then on Dearborn Street, 1 block from Bordeaux School. which I think is really important. And I'll bet you there are people here are in that group because the kids from the neighborhood, you had loads of them in there, from Dearborn to Laurel to
Stephen Street.
I knew there was a name for it, but I couldn't remember. Angleside. Well, and so I thought, because I lived on the other side of Bordeaux, way away on Euclid Street, that I thought the coolest kids in town were on Dearborn. And so I was always happy to go visit, and it's been, and as a result, just like Tom said, Tim was popular. He was joyful to be around. He was tall. He was smart. He was gifted. One of the stupid stories I hear is that he was so good he'd be standing in line on baseball workup drawing cartoon characters. What the heck? He could do anything he wanted to and did it well. And for some that might be like he was just good at everything. And it made his life so easy. He didn't know how hard it could be. But that was, and of course he was blonde. It made all the difference in his life. He was tall, and it was like he was the golden boy. He was the golden boy. But gifted enough to do stupid things in school. I love the one that Kelly says. Our family also had two really great aunts, Dora and Rose. Tom couldn't help but tell a wonderful story. But Rose and Dora lived down by the Catholic Church, and Tim would get babysat by them, and he learned to do that so well that he ended up going down and watching Lawrence Welk. And I have to tell you that Rose was blind and deaf, and Dora was deaf. So he didn't do anything, but he was there because he could feel that our aunts needed us. That he always had that capacity, and I never really recognized it because it came on so easy to him. He just did it. When our family got together, we did it on Christmas, Thanksgiving, but the best one was 4th of July. We all loved 4th of July because my dad had a cabin out there, and on 4th of July, everybody that thought they were related to us would show up. And so we had all the kids, Kel and Tom and Tim and the Mackeys. Carol is here, and Richard, and then I'm Mike, and then my brother's Jeff, my sister's Connie. So we had all these kids to play with, and then afterwards, Tim would stay, and so we'd have him for a couple of days, or sometimes Mark would rent the house next door, and so Mark's family was out in the woods' house, and we were in our house, and we just got to play with each other. We had inner tubes, we had floats, we had docks that we'd swim back and forth. We'd have kelp fights. We'd play baseball. The trick about playing wiffle ball, I should say, is you couldn't hit it over the bulkhead because you were out, because it was in the water. But if we were renting the woods, we could play there because they had a fence, which was helpful to us. But we played nibs, and then when Tim got to himself, what he really liked to do most was fish. And he fished, for the only thing we had, which was bullhead. But he loved to do that. At times, he recognized that it's time to take care of yourself a little bit. So those days at the canal were magic for all of us. And then, just as an aside, because I thought it was funny, one of our Thanksgivings, it turns out that Babe, who doted on her youngest, Tim didn't want to have turkey, so she made it a sandwich for Thanksgiving. And Tim was the youngest of us all, and so it was always a joyful event. When he ended up taking a job, of course, he was a log scaler. That's what his dad did, and so Tim did it also. It turns out that not only his dad was a log scaler, but his grandpa, our grandpa Paul, was a log scaler. Grandpa Paul scaled for Chris Kreinbaum in the 30s. Mark scaled for Gary Reed. Our great, I'm going to go with that one. I'm going, my great grandfather is Frank Fredson. And Frank Fredson scaled for Mark Reed and also lived next door to him. And I should mention log scaling, if we know what it is you measure the board feet of a log, and then that's the value of the log, and that's the how you buy and sell property or buy and sell logs. And to be a log scaler, the two things you really have to be are honest, and you got to be accurate. And so I love that Tim followed that way through. Even past Frank, our great grandfather was Mark Fredson also, and he scaled for Saul Reed. So for over 100 years, the Fredson family has scaled for the community, and Tim was the last one. In fact, he was the last water scaler, which meant that in the morning, they'd take him out on the rafts and dump him off with his lunch, and then come back at the end of the day and pick him up and bring him home, because he couldn't get off. But that's how he contributed. In addition, Tim worked in Port Angeles starting in 1907 for the Puget Sound Bureau. Help me again.
Grays Harbor.
The Grays Harbor. I knew I'd missed that. Which but started to work for the Grays Harbor scaling and started in 1977. Worked 20 years. Managed the log scaling operations at Port Angeles, and after that, he went into the log buying business and bought for a guy in Montesano for several years, and he always loved to tell the stories about all the business that you do logging or buying and selling logs in Montesano. You do it at the Beehive restaurant at 7 o'clock in the morning. So as a result of that scaling, Tim ended up being a board member for the Olympic Loggers Association, which was all the loggers in the Olympic Peninsula got together and had an annual event in Victoria at the Empress Hotel. I say those things are really cool because he got to be president. After his 10 years of serving as a board member, he ended up being president. And so, in typical Tim fashion, he invites his family. Kelly came. I got to come. Where are all the girls? Rose and Claire got to come. Mark got to come. And I got to come. And I got to come and because I gave a program about Sheldon, because he thought that would be helpful to him or me. I don't know what, but we did it on the sustained yield, which is our time in the community, and I know that everybody here knows what the sustained yield is. But he had his whole family up there, and for me, it was the first time I got to watch his two girls and Mark do karaoke. which was kind of foreshadowing for some of us in life. But that was really fun, and I really appreciated Tim thinking about including me in that, and he continued to do it all the way through. He is not only, in fact, he loved his family the most, of course, but what was close second was golf. And I'll bet you there's a lot of golfers in here from Tim. Because he, just like everything, he was a basketball player, he was a baseball player, whatever he did well. And he excelled in golf. And Bayshore, I'm sure, is full of his name from winning tournaments and winning championships. And at the Olympic Loggers Association golf tournament, he apparently won it so many times they gave him the trophy. It was he was skilled at those things, and that's when he and Linda got together over golf and board commissions. But after log scaling, Tim returned to school and went as a computer, and for 18 years he worked for the Pierce County Engineering Department, I think, is what it is. But in the end, he had to be accurate and honest, and he always was. He was, at the same time, he recognized what he could do for other people in an unassuming and humble way. It was just like, I'm kind of here helping out. And so I want to talk to Tim for a minute. First of all, I want to thank him and Linda and Bart and Rose and Claire for letting me be part of his last days. Again, there was no reason for him to do it, but he wanted me to be there and I really, really, really appreciate that. And what I also appreciate is that he watched the Seahawks win the Super Bowl, which was great. So I just, in fact, I got another stupid story. We were both at Central Washington State. I was just back from Vietnam, and he was over attending school, and he said, like, Mike, come over, and so I did. He's like, let's just watch television all day, because I was pretty intense, just back from the war, and he goes, like, everybody needs to take a break. And he recognized that. He had no reason to recognize that, but like Tom recognized all the way through, that's his character, is really taking care of other people and making other people's lives better. So I just gotta say, Tim was always good when you were in my life. It was always good. And so my cousin in 71 years, I hope you lit up my life, and I hope I contributed to yours. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
So I've got my stopwatch here, and I'm going to set it so I don't talk too long, because I want to save group time for open sharing. And I think Kern's going to have the food ready a little bit after 2. So here's my notes. So I think I already mentioned when we started, but thank everyone for coming today. It's really great to see so many family and old friends. Tim and I got reappointed in the mid-1990s when he had moved back to Shelton and was on the board at the Bayshore Golf Club, and I was the treasurer, so I was always at the board meetings. And I used to get the biggest kick out of watching Tim and Randy Coots maneuver the old guys on the board. You know, Tim and Randy would want to do something different, and the old guys said, no, we've never done it that way. We've got to do it this way. And one time, I don't remember what the issue was, but Tim and Randy had enough votes on the board to change something and have it be done a different way. And after the board meeting, the gentleman that was the board president that year, he said, "We've been bamboozled by Tim and Randy." Of course, Tim and Randy were most pleased with themselves. So Tim and I actually started dating in 1998, and it was kind of a roundabout beginning to our relationship. He started calling me at Pioneer School and saying, "I'm going to be back to town about 4 o'clock. Do you want to play 9 holes of golf? I need to get my game in shape." So I'd say, "Sure, I'll meet you at Bayshore." And we started playing golf now and then. And eventually he said, "I'd like to take you out." And I said, "What?" Because I'm older. I was 7 years older than Tim, and he was the same age as my younger brother Dave. And in fact, when we first started going out, my mom would say to other members in our family, "Linda's going out with Tim Fredson. He graduated with Dave." It was just a mystery to us. But anyway, we ended up having 28 years of a lot of adventures, a lot of fun, a lot of laughter. We traveled and did all kinds of things. And as Mike and Tom both said, Tim had a great love for his family. He was proud of being a Fredson. He also, he loved his children. He was very proud of the adults that his children have become. And he was especially happy with his 4 little granddaughters. So in addition to that, he had basically 3 passions in his life: sports, music, and dogs. And Mike and Tom have both talked a little bit about sports and what a good athlete he was. And now, Jeannie, quit wiping your eyes. I'm holding it together here, so you're not helping me. But anyway, we played a lot of golf over the years, a lot of rounds at Bayshore before Bayshore closed. I see our good friend Charlie Gay here. Sometimes I would play after work, sometimes catch up, play a few holes with Charlie, sometimes catch up and play a few holes with old Jackie Stewart. One time I played with Charlie and Jackie Stewart, and then Tim came along, and it was always fun at Bayshore. You never knew who you were going to catch up and play a few holes with. But anyway, we played a lot of golf. We watched a lot of sports. I can tell you many hours of watching sports. And Tim was so happy when broadcasting got to the point that you could record everything. And then he could record 2 things at the same time, and then you could watch one later, and he was most happy with that feature and made good use of it. We traveled a little bit around to watch different family members play sports. We traveled to Las Vegas one time to watch my nephew Kevin when he was playing baseball for the Huskies. And we made 2 trips to watch Tim's great niece Hannah play college softball. We went once to Las Vegas when she was playing for New Mexico State. And then a couple years later, we went to Stockton, California, and watched her when she played for the University of Iowa. So he was always happy to travel to watch anybody in my family or his family play sports. Music. He was a big music fan. Sometimes I think I might start counting his CDs. I think I started one time, I lost track at 200. I think he might have had 800 or 900 CDs, and music of all kinds. And we saw every major group. I thought about making a list, but it would have been we'd be here all day if I started talking about all the groups that we saw. But in the last couple of years, we had 2 memorable music events. In September of 2023, we traveled to Las Vegas to see Van Morrison. And while we were there, we stayed in a hotel that overlooked the Sphere in Las Vegas. And Tim was really fascinated by the graphics on the outside of the Sphere. And he said, "We got to come back down here and see something in the Sphere." So the next year, 2024, the Eagles announced that they were going to do a residency in the Sphere. And Tim had always said, "I want to see the Eagles, but they just want too much money for their tickets." But when he found out they were going to be in the Sphere, he ponied up the some money, and we went in December of 2024, and Mark and one of his friends joined us, and we had a great time at the Sphere seeing the Eagles. So Tim's other great passion was dogs, and he had a good friend, Sid Bechtold. I didn't see Sid here today, but maybe he's here. But Sid said to Tim one time, well, you know, Tim, it's really all about the dogs. And for Tim, that was true. It was all about the dogs. And in our 28 years, we had 4 different dogs. And we have a dog now that's 125-pound St. Bernard Standard Poodle Cross. She's a big dog. And she's Tim's girl. But if I raised my voice to her or scolded her for anything, she'd fly across the room and leap into Tim's lap, all 125 pounds, because she knew he would save her from me. So, in closing, I'll just mention a couple things. You know, when things were winding down in the last couple days of Tim's life, he was pretty quiet, and he was past the point of being interested in what was on TV. So I just played music, and we talked a little bit. I talked, and he listened, and he would respond if I asked him something. But one afternoon, all of a sudden, his cell phone rings, and clear as a bell, in his normal, strong Tim voice, he said, "I'm not taking any calls." Which really kind of surprised me, so I said, "Okay, I got it, no calls." So things, were winding down, and the next day, and I think this is the last coherent sentence that he said to me. He said, all of a sudden, just out of the blue, I'm sitting by him, he's in the hospital bed, I think he's dozing, and all of a sudden he says, "You're going to have to be nicer to the dog." And I said, "I know, I already figured that out. I'm going to be nice to the dog, so I can report to all of you, the dog and I are doing fine. I'm taking good care of her. I'm being real nice to her." And with that, I'll close my remarks.
I'm going to have to apologize. I'm going to read my speech. I'm following Mike and Linda. They're very good speakers. I'm not used to this, so bear with me. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Claire, or as my father fondly nicknamed me, Bear. I'm the middle child. I want to thank you all for being here today. Sorry. A little soon. Okay. To celebrate my dad's life. I have to admit, he would probably be mildly irritated that we're making him the center of attention and gushing over him like this, but here we are, doing it anyway. At least this time, I didn't have to bully him into doing something he didn't want to do, so I'll take that as a win. As I've reflected on my dad's life and the many seasons that he moved through, I've realized that everyone in this room likely witnessed a different version of him. Some of you knew him for the better part of his 71 years. Others met him much later. I've been told by some very reputable sources that he was quite a rascal as a child. He was a high school athlete, and by his own admission, probably equal parts troublemaker. I'll take your word on that one, Dad. Hearing the stories of his youth makes me believe that my siblings and I would have had a hard time keeping up with him, though we certainly would have enjoyed the ride. My father was many things. He was a lover of music, a fifth-generation log scaler, and an avid golfer, and he was also a deeply intelligent man, capable of retraining himself for a career in engineering that, no matter how many times I asked him to explain it, I never truly understood. He was a partner, a friend, a brother, a son, a golf buddy, a colleague. But today I'm here to talk about him as a father and the legacy of love he leaves behind. I'm fine. Totally fine. Okay. Okay. The first things that come to mind when I reflect on the essence of who my father was are his sense of humor, his resilience, and his huge heart. When I was growing up, my dad encouraged me to burp on demand. I took some pride in this, I must admit, but that wasn't the funny part to my dad. My dad would then prompt me to say, "My Aunt Kelly taught me that." And of course, as I repeated this phrase in the presence of my dear auntie, my dad would erupt into his unmistakable chuckle, his head thrown back, deeply amused with himself. It was in instances like this my grandmother would often say, "I'm glad you think you're funny, Tim, because nobody else does." But that wasn't true. My siblings and I were his best audience. We in fact thought he was hilarious, and we also lived to make him laugh with that same infectious guffaw that he was prone to ignite in himself. And despite her half-hearted exclamations, his mom thought he was pretty hilarious too. I watched one season of The Bachelorette in my life. I started watching it when I had just moved to Savannah, Georgia. For some reason I can't quite recall. When my dad came to visit me, I forced him to watch it after a long day about town. I'm not sure I've ever laughed so hard while watching anything on TV. His commentary was unmatched. He had a punchline for every scene. His quick and witty remarks had me in stitches. I never watched The Bachelorette again after that night, because without him there to elevate the experience with his comical observations, it would never be the same. The guy loved his television. When I imagine my dad in his happy place, it's in his recliner, giving love pats to his favorite pups with one hand and a remote in the other. He was the absolute best guy to watch anything with, whether it was live or on the tube, sports, a music documentary or concert, a play performed by small children, you name it. Because he always elevated the experience by merely reacting to it in real time for us all to enjoy. And that chuckle, though. He found humor in almost anything, and also had an uncanny ability to make himself laugh. He was very easily amused. As I went through his phone after he passed, hoping to find some sound bites of his dry humor, what I found was mostly his chuckle. There were endless videos of his grandchildren doing everyday things like eating a banana or toddling across the living room, and all you could hear was his chuckle in the background. You could just feel the pure joy he felt from simply bearing witness to his grandchildren. Before my dad passed, my husband, Kurt, would often say, "Think like Tim." That is a reminder to laugh through it, to see the comedy of it all, to make it lighter, easier. This is often stated during a toddler tantrum or some other frustrating moment of parenthood, because Dad would laugh through it. He'd find it funny that Parker's throwing herself on the floor, or Wes is melting down over something ridiculous. So Dad, well, I'm going to miss that laugh forever. I feel lucky to have heard it so often, and I will continue to look for the humor in everyday things and to delight in the mundane. I'm so sorry this is so long, but I'm going to keep going. Things always seem to come easily to Dad. He was the kind of student who finished his schoolwork so quickly that his teachers, at a loss for what to do with his idle mind, eventually let him sit in class and knit. That natural aptitude followed him onto the golf course and the basketball court. In my mind, he was a constant champion. It felt like he was winning a new golf tournament every single weekend, and later alongside Linda in couples play. Professionally, he excelled by following the footsteps of the generations before him, carving out a niche as one of the last water scalers in the region. a role that required a specific kind of mastery he seemed to possess inherently. But the true measure of Dad wasn't just in the things that came easy. It was in the way he handled the things that were hard. He faced setbacks and made choices that could have easily derailed him, but he was incredibly resilient. I remember how proud he was when he decided to go back to school. Looking through his old schoolwork recently, I was struck not only by his remarkably unique penmanship, which I've always admired, but also by what those papers represented, a turning point. As a teenager and young adult, I only saw his choices through the lens of how they impacted me. I didn't have the perspective yet to put myself in his shoes or imagine what he was experiencing. Dad, if you can hear me, I want you to know that I am so incredibly proud of you. I'm sorry I didn't fully get it then, but I do get it now. I see how hard you worked. I see that you never gave up. And I'm so grateful for the man you were. Only one more page, guys. Getting there. The most profound gift my father gave us was love. If there was one thing my dad was good at, it was loving his kids, his family, his dogs. He may have been better at expressing his love to his dogs, but it didn't matter because you could just feel the love. It was an intense, unconditional, and slightly miraculous kind of love. The kind that never wavered and somehow never judged. In Dad's eyes, we were incapable of disappointment. He was our permanent, self-appointed cheerleader, convinced that every endeavor we pursued was a masterclass in talent. He would have loved for one of us to be a star athlete, which didn't happen. But he didn't get a pro athlete. He settled for making my 7th grade track meet the stuff of legend. To hear him tell it over the years, you'd think that I was destined to throw the discus in the Olympics. I didn't make it to the Olympics, in case any of you were wondering. That was his magic. Everything we did was cool. Every avenue of our lives, from childhood into adulthood, was a source of immense pride for him. He adored every version of us we ever presented to him. Dad, thank you for being one of the only places in this world where we were always undeniably enough. He had a way of looking at the world where the highlights were always turned up and the shadows were met with a quiet, steady compassion. If Dad loved you, you were decorated with his own brand of high honors. Short, punchy accolades like, she's a class act, or he's a real gem, that carried the weight of a formal decree because you knew they came from the very bottom of his heart. He truly saw the light in everyone he loved, from his lifelong friends to the chaotic energy of my friends' kids, whom he got such a kick out of. He'd report on the achievements of Linda's grandchildren with the same genuine pride as if they were his own, always finding the good in whatever they were up to. He always made everyone sound like true gold. I know I'll never be loved like that again, so fully. Nobody can love you like your father. So, I carry that within me every day for the rest of my life. And it aches so deeply to know that I can't get that hug or listen to that laugh. But that love lives in my bones, courses through my veins. I can still feel it, even though his soul has passed on. I quite literally get that warm and fuzzy feeling when I focus on the love he poured into us. And while it's easy to start thinking about the what could have beens, about things left unsaid, about a future without him, the best thing I can do is focus on the love. The love he gave, the love I pass on to my kids, the love that has shaped the deep bond I have with my siblings. My brother reminded me that during a tough time in Dad's life, he kept a sign on his mirror that said something like, "I strive to be the person my dog thinks I am." It was a humorous nod to his favorite companions, but also a quiet admission of a man trying to find his way back to his own worth. Dad, I can confidently say that you are most certainly the man your dogs believed you to be. You are a stand-up guy with a world of love to give. And in honor of you, I'm going to make peace with all the previous versions of myself. I'm going to love them up and show them gratitude for getting me here, just as I have for every version of you. You loved me with an intensity that never asked for perfection. You saw me as a gem, even when I couldn't see it myself. So while you spent your life striving to be the person your dogs thought you were, I'm going to spend the rest of mine striving to be the person you thought I am. Because in your eyes, I was always enough. And Dad, you certainly were too.
Excellent. It's so good. Yeah, give Mom a hug. Oh, Mark's coming to do a song.
Yeah.
She gets super over
One more show. The best part.
So Tim was very proud of his son Mark's musical accomplishment. So you're going to get a sample of that. Yeah.
He's got his keyboard out. Nice.
Thanks so much, Claire, for that. It's going to be a tough one to follow, so I'll try not to break down mid-song here. Going to do a Tom Petty song, which was one of my dad's favorite artists. Song at the Gorge at least one or two times. Just want to say thank you for being here, and this is really special to be able to see this room filled with people that held Dad in their hearts in their own special way. It's giving us a lot of life, so thank you so much. And sounds like we're coming out of retirement for this one. Some days is down, some days is wrong, some doors are open, some roads are blocked, sundowns are golden, then fade away. If you never do nothing, got your back someday. You got a heart so big, it could crush this town. We can't hold on, even arms hold on. All around you there's a barricade, keeps out the danger, holds in the pain. Sometimes you're happy, sometimes you cry. Half of you is ocean, half of you is sky. But you got a heart so true, it could crush this town. We can't hold on, even arms fall down. Some things are over, and some things go on. Part of you we carry, part of you is gone, but you got a heart so true, And next up, we got to direct your attention over to the screen over here. We're doing a presentation that my sister Rose really poured her heart into, and it is an absolutely gorgeous representation of Dad and his humor and of different areas of his life. And yeah, we're getting that pulled up right now. So it was just a second, man. Maybe a little more Tom Petty for you.
Got a lot of interesting things going on here. We normally don't get to examine it like this. You know. What's your problem?
Let it get to the point. Let's roll another joint. You'll last too long.
You need to get smack it. I noticed that.
Yeah, most definitely. Let's get to the point. Let's roll another joint. Let's sail down the road. Somewhere I gotta go. You don't know how it feels. You don't know how it feels.
Go to the birthday, bro. We got to do it. Ooh. Yeah. Well, you should grab this. But you don't know good. Well, I don't know what's next on the schedule. Hey, Vanna White. How's this doing with you? Very silent. Hey, you. Who's want to listen to you? Call 911. When the missus comes this time, maybe. She's looking good. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, I never was want for anything.
Looking good.
Sorry, I don't want to get in. So this is hard to follow these guys, but I'll give it a try. A short prayer for Tim. We thank you, Lord, for blessing our lives with Tim's presence. Although our hearts are heavy with his loss, we thank you for the comfort of knowing he is with you and in perfect peace. Thank you for the hope this brings. Grant comfort, strength, and peace to Tim's family and loved ones. May our hearts always be open to your love. In Jesus' name, amen.
I guess not. This time? All right. Well, now food's ready, but that doesn't matter. We want anyone that had a few words to say, or please just introduce yourself and feel free to say what's in your heart today. Okay? So, I guess I wonder how far I can move from the. Can I move from the, okay, here. I'll meet you, sir.
Saw a lot of people here I haven't seen for a while today. I didn't grow up on Bordeaux, so I didn't know Tim until, oh man, I was probably a junior in high school and he would be a sophomore. And I had this really good friend, Mike Johnson, the colonel we called him, and he came up, we were going out to our cabin. We used to go out there and cut loose on the weekends, Mike and Teddy and I, and Mike said, hey, I got this friend and he really needs some help and support. He's kind of got on the wrong side of Coach Greg and a few people, so I think we can take him to the cabin with us this weekend. And it was in the winter and we'd go out there all the time, colors. So sure, the more the merrier, we'll have fun. So we took Tim out there, had a great time that weekend, and after that weekend, he just kind of became part of the pack with Colonel and I and Teddy and a few other guys, and Colonel thought, well, we'll keep an eye on him and help keep him out of trouble because occasionally he makes bad decisions. And his dad gets really pissed off. And so, which was kind of funny, Mike and I providing guidance to him to help keep him out of trouble. So that was kind of a hilarious thing. And when Linda texted me in Tucson and told me about Tim's passing, had a lot of things came back to me because Tim and I became really close friends, and we went to a lot of shows together, and we both hung out with the Colonel most of our lives until the Colonel passed here a while back. But Tim always liked to talk about his kids. He was so proud of his kids. There's no doubt about it. His son Mark and his music career and his daughters and teaching and doing different things. But when we were young, we used to go out to Mason Lake all the time to this place called the Rope Swing. And I think Tim's mom had a Mustang. I think that's what it was. It was some kind of a little two-door car. And they had this huge dog. And the dog always had to go swimming with us. So, and I always had to sit in the back seat on the way home with the wet dog. And it was all, come on, Colonel can sit in the back. No, the dog likes you, you know. So I was stuck in the back with the dog all the time. And I remember one time we went camping. We were camping on the South Fork of the Stoke. Colonel, I, and Tim, and a few other guys. And we'd been drinking beer most of the day. And I went down to the river, and Tim's down there and he's taking a leak. And I go, Tim, what the hell are you doing? He says, what do you think I'm doing? I'm taking a leak. And I said, yeah, I can see that. But that's our cooler right in front of you in the river there. So, yeah. And, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I got entered into this contest, and I was going to win these tickets to go, and Charlie Sheen was out of his mind. We were getting these tickets for a meet and greet for two with Charlie Sheen, and I had gotten in the final people, and my wife said, what the hell are you doing that for? She said, I'm not going to that with you. I said, well, of course you're not going to that with me. She said, well, nobody will go to that with you. And I said, I know one person who will go to that with me. She's like, who? And I said, Tim Fredson. And she's like, no, he won't. So I called him up. Tim, if I win, you're going to go see? Oh, absolutely. So I ended up winning. Oh, there it is. So we took the day and we drove up to Everett, I think that's where it was, and I got these, supposedly these tickets were like $1,000 each, and so we went in there and we got to go to the meet and greet and had good seats for the show, and it was cracked up. We laughed all the way home. So Tim did have a sense of humor. And then one of the last things I wanted to tell was a story. A bunch of us went to Tacoma to a blues festival. And we ran into Tim Anstey up there. And what have you been doing? He said, well, I've been in the motorhome here with Johnny Winters bullshitting with him with the last half hour. He says, you ought to go in there. I said, yeah, go in there. So Tim went in the motorhome and sat with Johnny Winters for 20, 30 minutes and bullshit with him. And he enjoyed the hell out of that. That was one of his more memorable occasions that I can remember him talking about, was getting to meet Johnny Winters and sit in his little motorhome with him and chew the fat for 20 minutes or so. There's a lot of other stories I could tell but won't, but you know, I'm going to miss Tim an awful lot. We went to see Robin Trower here, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago. So he was kind of my concert partner when nobody else wanted to see a band. He was always up for it.
Anybody else?
Well, about it, huh? The food is on, it looks like in the back, so I think it's ladies first, and should be, it is, and refreshment, that's it, okay.
So Kern's been holding the food. He's waiting for people to come back there. So head back and have a bite to eat. And there's coffee and water at the bar area. And I told Kern, you know, this will be done by 2:15 or so. But I have to say, I learned early in my career, the Fredsons always run just a little bit late. So I should have told Kern 2:30. But anyway, the food looks great and it's ready. And we'd like it if you'd stay and celebrate a little more with us. Thank you.